Hello, welcome to Give Paws Hobby. I am Kyle Frost as always. I'm here in the game garage where it is just over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So not terrible. It's also, for anyone, I can't imagine this is anybody at this point, but if anyone's ever been like, man, this garage is always really clean. This is like not how it normally is. I usually have this totally cleaned off, but I'm in the middle of a couple of house projects here, so it is in fact a garage that does get used for garage things, not just board games. Before we get into the actual content of this video, I would like to extend a special friends hello to friends of the channel. That is your second hello of the video. If you'd like to be part of this special group that gets an extra greetings, you can always like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know you're here. Let me know how you feel about this game we're about to talk about, which is, if you've watched my top 10 video, you know this is on there. This is Tesla versus Edison. Boom. War of the Currents, but specifically if you are playing with the powered up expansion. Now, if you have played this game, you will already know that the rule books don't get sort of replaced. They don't get like kicked to the curb as the new thing gets added in. In fact, or rather instead, they sort of go together like some sort of rules Voltron, where you have the base game rule book, you have the expansion rulebook, which some things are brand new, other things modify action in the base game, and other things say do it exactly like you did before. And then you also have the robot, the AI and solitaire play rulebook. And yes, you do need to bounce between those things if you're just using what you are provided with the game. Now, it's not the end of the world. This is still on my top 10 list of games of all time, even with that. But I finally did what I've had the inkling to do for months and months, which is put my love of this game to work and make a single document that puts all of those things together. Now, it's not quite as, short or succinct as I guess I was thinking it might be, probably naively, or other people might want it to be. But it does, I believe, cover everything you need to know. And then it has an index for the rules that you want to get the actual, from the horse's mouth, how the rule is written rather than how I've interpreted it. I'm going to go through bit by bit. As always, timestamps are below. So if you know 80% of the game, but you want to learn about that 20% you don't, head on down there and see what I've got. And I will explain both the Meatbag and robot actions, separately, but in tandem, to show what's the same and what's different between them. For some of you, that may be the part that you don't need help with. You know how the humans do their actions, you know how the robots do their actions, but it's just like the minutia of which rule you follow for the certain phases of the game. Then you can probably stop the video when you get to that action part. If you know the grand scope of the game, but you don't know the specific actions, hop down there now. And if you want to see the whole thing, it's a little bit longer of a video than I was intending, just like the document itself. But hopefully that means it's exhaustive and it will be helpful to get this wonderful game to the table. And make sure the link is down below. Go right to BGG to download it, print it out if you think it's going to be helpful. I'm already looking forward to doing a playthrough of this game, to have this by my side as opposed to flipping frantically between the 3 different books. So let's get over to it before I start sweating even more. It's Kyle from the future. I forgot to say this in the intro, but the player aid is, the whole point of it is to combine the base, the expansion, and the robot rulebooks into, boom, one document. But in doing my research and putting it together, I found out 2 things. One, there is only one rule that needs to be changed if you're playing a solitaire game. So that's just one human against however many robots. And that is in the event phase. If you are playing, however, with just meatbags, you don't want to play with robots, A, ignore any gray box you don't need to worry about. And B, there are 2 rules, the time when auctions come up, and there's a little asterisk, and that rule is at the bottom of page 2. I go over this when I'm going through the document, but I just wanted to point out this is not a player aid only for robots. It's not even a player aid only if robots are in your game. It is a player aid for everybody, regardless of what your game makeup is, with 0 to 6 meat bags plus 0 to 6 robots. It's helpful for everybody. All right, so here we are at the player aid. As you can see at the top, I've divided up the page. On the left is going to be the stuff for the meat bags. On the right is going to be the stuff for the robots, solitaire mode or not. And anything that takes up the whole width of the page, that's going to be reserved for rules that apply to humans and robots. So the only other part in the rules is just a reminder that if you're playing without robots, read the footnote on the second page and watch out for the asterisks in the rules. So I'll go over that real quick. Asterisks that you may see, they are at both of the auctions. It's a reminder that in this case, only if playing with robots should you do the 2,000 times the phase number for the starting bid. If you're not playing with robots, auctions simply start at 1,000 and they go from there. Reason being, people meat bags will drive up auctions if they think that it's necessary, whereas since the robots won't be participating, they made a synthetic way for the auctions to just be higher by starting them higher. So the other rule, before we get started, is not really a rule so much as just a overview. So the first 2 pages of this player aid cover everything except the details of the meatbag and robot actions, and page 3 will present those side by side. Feel free to keep the rulebooks handy. You may need or may desire a little bit more like granularity for an explanation if something comes up. If that is the case, be sure to use the index at the bottom of page 2 to go right to the page that you need. However, that said, the whole point of this player aid was to eliminate the need to go back and forth between 3 different rule books, which, as much as I love this game, is a huge hassle. So ideally, you shouldn't have to go to those rule books, but if you need to, check out the bottom of page 2, find out exactly where you need to head. All right, next section is setup. So the first thing here is nothing new. It's from the expansion rulebook, and it is the number of cards, propaganda, Luminary Phase 1, Luminary Phase 2, based on the number of players in the game. And yes, that does include robots. Since robots are an acting force in the game, it's not just like a blocker character. So however many are in the game, just go down that column. That's how many cards. You should shuffle those decks, set those aside, and then put the rest of the cards back in the box. You're going to put 1 game marker, doesn't matter really whichever you choose, on the first spot of the turn track, and then another marker on the start spot of the AC/DC fame track, right in the middle. Okay, so this is where we have the first difference for the company draft. So Meatbag's are going to draft companies first. However you want to randomize that, people just get to choose which company they want, and we'll get to taking this stuff next. The other thing is each person, each living, breathing meatbag gets $14,000 to start. And a reminder, robots never get any money ever. At no point will you ever accrue money for the robot player. So for the robots, once the humans have done their drafting of the companies, you're going to randomize the remaining companies for the desired number of robots. Now, of course, you can also choose, if you really want to do, say, robot Edison or robot Tesla, you could always set those aside to begin with and then draft the rest with the humans. So, this is, I think, just kind of giving the people around the table their own freedom to choose whichever companies they want. But if you as a person, if you're doing solo play, or as a table, if you're a group that's including a robot, want a specific robot, feel free to set them aside and just not allow anyone else to be them. And then you're going to choose your desired AI deck. There are 2 sides for the deck. I believe with the Kickstarter edition, maybe that's an exclusive. There is another AI deck that is also double-sided. So there are 4 different inventor AIs for the Kickstarter, and I believe just 2 for the regular one. You're going to choose which one of those you want. And then as soon as you do, you will put the inventor card right on top of that AI deck so you can't scope out what the robot is planning on doing right in that first turn. Okay, as each meatbag or robot chooses a company, remembering that humans go first, you are going to do these kind of 3 bullets. You're going to take the inventor card, headquarters mat, and cards, put those color side down because you haven't built anything, and the preferred share certificate, and all the corresponding cubes for your inventor. Now, as each human player chooses their company, they're going to go ahead and place their cubes on the lowest current and future fame tracks and the starting spots of all 3 technology tracks and the stock market 12 spot. For the robots, assuming you have more than one, you're going to wait to place any fame track cubes until all robots have been assigned. The other ones, technology and stock market, you can place, feel free to do so, or you can wait until all robots have been assigned their company and then randomize, just kind of put all those different color cubes in your hand and deal them out one at a time, placing them on increasing spots on the fame track. Then lastly, you're going to gather 6 common stock certificates to the side of the board to make the market and set another 2 aside for future luminary actions. Put all the rest of the company stocks in the box. You can't buy stock in companies that aren't in the game. All right, we're moving right along to auctions. The luminary auctions take place at the start of turns 1, 3, and 5, or at the start of phases 1, 2, and 3. Since the game uses both terminologies, just a reminder here that you will see both. For phase 1, lay out the luminaries previously prepared according to the number of players. Face up for everyone to see. It's pretty simple. Let them know what's on the market. For phase 2, shuffle the leftover phase 1 luminaries in with those previously prepared and assign a random stock to each. Remember when we set those 2 stocks aside for luminary auctions? This is where we're going to use them. For phase 3, you're going to shuffle all the leftover luminaries and assign a random leftover stock to each. So this is a mistake that I was making. It's not a huge one, but the stock does not necessarily stick with the luminary from phase 2 to 3. Any leftover luminaries, I guess their stock portfolios change like ours do, and they will be randomly reassigned to a stock, or rather a stock to an event luminary when we get to phase 3. After the auction, remove any remaining propaganda cards and replace them for the upcoming phase. It really doesn't have anything to do with an auction, but that's where it happens in the timeline. All right, so again, split into meatbag and robot actions. So we're going to hop over to the robot side of things first, because crucially, the robots will never bid on luminaries. We'll come back to what we do next with them, but that's an important point to just get out of the way. Back on the human side of things, you'll start each auction with the highest fame, person with the highest fame, and they will start at $2,000 times the phase number. So either 2, 4, or 6,000 depending on the phase. Asterisk, remember, if you're not playing with robots, disregard the 2,000 a phase and replace it with just starting at a simple $1,000. It goes up from there. Players may choose to skip whether or not they have the money. However, once you pass, you are out for that luminary. You can't come back in if it doesn't seem like the bid went up very high. Once you win an auction for a luminary, you are out of the remainder of the luminary auction. So just be aware of that. After the auctions, you're going to deal random luminary as well as random stock for phases 2 or 3 to any players who didn't win one through an auction. They must pay the bank $1,000. So once all players have a new luminary, whether they won a specific one through an auction or they were assigned a random one because they didn't win any auctions, the meatbags are done and the robots are going to remove luminaries from the pool. You'll return a random one of the remaining luminaries to the box for each robot, and then you will give them a random available stock, assuming it's phase 2 or 3. So since the robot decks are built to kind of grow as the game goes, since the game not only assumes but forces players to gain luminaries at each of these phases, the robot decks are going to reflect that. They don't need luminaries over there, as you'll see in the robot actions. However, it simulates those luminaries actually getting snatched up by companies who want them. All right, next up is one of the main changes from the base game to the expansion, the event cards. So first of all, you're going to apply the primary effect of the drawn event card or start an auction for an effect. See below for how that would work. And then in brackets it says, or ignore it for solitaire games. So you will not play with the primary effects if you are playing solitaire games. You will, however, go to the next bullet and say you will apply the stock market effects. So those will always be used. However, the primary effects will not. So assuming that you have at least one other human in the game aside from yourself, let's again start over on the robot side of things. Robots will never bid on event cards. So we'll get that out of the way. Then we go back over to the human side of things, and it's very similar to, in fact, exactly the same as the Luminary auctions. So you will start any auction with the highest fame, and at $2,000 per phase number, asterisk, no robots, just start at 1,000. Players may still choose to skip whether or not they have money, and if nobody bids anything, you're going to discard the card without any effects taking place. So remember, the stock market change, the adjustment, has already happened. If there was an auction for the primary effect and nobody wanted to buy it, that primary effect just fizzles. Back over on the robot side of things, primary effects will never prevent them from taking actions. They might prevent people from taking actions, but if a robot AI card says that they develop their HQ or whatever, but the event card says people can't, the robot supersedes that event card, always. And if a robot must pay a player for an effect, take it from the bank. Because again, robots never get money ever. All right, turns. So the actual actions of the game. Any robots will complete their entire turns in order of present fame track, and then the meatbags will take their actions, see below for both cases. So it does not matter if a human has climbed their way up to the top, the heap of the pile. That feels really great in an all-human game of Tesla versus Edison. But as long as there's at least one robot, that one or more robot is always going to go before you, no matter how high up the fame track you are. You'll still go in fame order for those robots if there's more than one, but they will get to take first crack at all these actions. For any ties, and this is kind of just a rule to keep in mind throughout the turns, even in scoring, meatbags automatically beat robots, and between meatbags it's decided by who's higher on the present fame track. So fame track is the be-all, end-all in terms of ties. And if a propaganda action would move a robot's marker that's already at the top, instead raise the robot's stock price by the phase number. So kind of nice for them. They are never really edged out of getting value out of propaganda cards, because even if they're all the way at the top, they're going to gain some stock price. Okie doke. Let's go to the robots first, since they are going to be going first in the turns. So in fame order, you'll reveal each robot's AI card for the present turn. So for the first phase, or rather first turn, you will just move the inventor's card off the stack to reveal the card that you previously covered up. Leave that card on until it's the next turn. For obvious reasons, you don't want to see exactly what the robot's planning on doing. You will then completely resolve the first 4 lines for propaganda, technology, project, claiming, and HQ actions indicated for the turn in printed order. So there will be some of those actions on some lines, and there will not be others on others. Depending on which difficulty side you have and which inventor you're using, they are created to act somewhat like you would imagine that inventor acting. So there are certain inventors that are going to hard charge the technology track, especially with hitting patents along the way, and that is just a part of the fun. Now, a quick aside, that I really can't find any reference to this in the rule books, nor in some searching online can I find it anywhere there. I do not know the specific rule. So if a robot does have a patent, the way I've been playing, the way that makes sense to me, since robots never collect money, if I as the player am using a technology the robot holds, I will just send that money to the bank. It's money that leaves my coffers. It does not go to the robot. They still got the stock market benefit for filing the patent, and thereby remove some money from my bank, or rather my wallet, for using that patent. You're going to then repeat this process for each robot. Then you're going to move over to the Meatbags. So in present fame track order, players will take one action at a time. For tech and HQ actions, luminaries must have the required symbols. For each action, flip any used luminaries or inventors face down. Continue to go through the order until all luminaries are used. So this is the robots take their entire turn in one fell swoop. The humans are going to go one action at a time. So if you are advancing the technology track, you will do that. It'll go to the next player, and the next player, it'll come back to you, and then you can claim a project. You won't do boom, boom, a 1-2 right in a row. The details for all the actions, human and robot, are down below. They're on the third page, and I will be going over them in this video, but not till later. And as always, the things are timestamped down below, so you can go to exactly what you need to help you get through the game. Next up, bookkeeping. First of all, you're going to adjust the present fame track to match the future fame track and advance the stock price by the current phase number to the players with either the highest patent, AC or DC, whichever is leading on the fame track. So if AC is more in favor, the player or the robot or human with the highest patent in that technology goes up their stock price by the phase number. Or if the fame track is in the center, both of the highest patents in AC and DC will go up stock price by the same thing, fame number, it'll still be by phase number, but it'll go to both. And yes, that does mean it can be the same person. If someone has the highest technology on both sides, they can take both of those things if they can manage to keep the fame track in the center, which is pretty sweet. There will never be any stock increases for bulb technology, just a heads up. Then you will move the AC/DC fame marker one space towards the center if it isn't there already. Okay, so for Meatbags, and only Meatbags, you will take profits listed below the current stock. Again, robots never take money. Each player may purchase a stock or trade one stock for another. And yes, when you trade a stock, that is sending a stock back to the market, so from your portfolio back to the market, and you will take that current price of the stock, like the value of it, and apply it towards whatever stock you are wishing to purchase instead. And then you will increase the value of the stock bought by phase number. And if you traded a stock to get it, you will move whatever stock you just sold to the market, you will move that stock price one space to the left. So it'll be a bit of a hit. This is a major change from the base game to the expansion, because visiting the stock market used to be an action unto itself. And you also were able to kind of really flood the market by doing these things, like selling off multiple shares of a company at one time, and obviously tanking their stock price. This, you can still do that, but you can only do it, A, if you have enough money to buy another stock with, and B, you can only do it once a turn. So for the robots, it'll be in fame order, and this is with the Meatbags. Unlike with actions, the robots will be interspersed within the humans. You will complete any action on the fifth line of the AI card for each robot. And if this is their opportunity to buy stock, in air quotes, they don't actually exchange money, and they will never trade. They will only acquire stock. If no stock for the intended company remains, take the next best, as in the next highest valued stock. So again, down below and later in the video, I'll go over the details of that fifth line of the AI card. It's pretty simple once you kind of get the symbolism that they use for the simple kind of programming that you follow. You go for that stock. If there's no more of that stock, you go with the next best. Lastly, flip all luminaries from the turn, discard the current event, advance the turn market, and then if you're going into turns 2 or 4, you'll go to the event reveal. If you're going into turns 3 or 5, you'll go to a luminary auction instead. That's the end of the turn after turn stuff that will take place in Tesla versus Edison, powering up, not War of the Currents. If you get to scoring, well, when you get to scoring, hopefully not if, each person will earn from 6 points on down victory points for each stock according to their stock market value. So the highest value stock, every one of those you have, including the 4 on your preferred shares, if that's your company, each one of those will be worth 6 points. So that means if you're playing a 6-player game, the 6th worst stock, or the lowest stock, will only be worth 1 victory point each. Cash bonus, you'll just compare how much cash you have on hand for players, and then the profits associated with the robot's stock price. So they will never have cash on hand, so the game just fudges the numbers and says whatever their profits are, not the value of the stock, but the profits down below, that's how much cash they have on hand. And then you will just get a one-time victory point infusion there. If you have the most cash, you get 6 points. Third most, 4 points, so on and so forth. HQ built. This is individual. This is not a competition. If you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 of parts of your HQ built, you will get 1, 3, 6, or 10 points. This does also apply to the robots, and it's pretty simple. Do you have it built? If so, you get that many points. If you didn't spend any actions to build your HQ, you get nothing. Last but not least, your works part of your HQ. Each inventor will have a different and unique bonus that they can chase after to get victory points for this point of the game. You have to read it for each, and if you have the necessary requirements for it, you will add whatever victory points you've earned onto your score with that. This does apply to robots as well, but only if they built the works building. If they didn't, too bad, so sad. And same thing with players. If you didn't build the works, you don't get the added bonus victory points associated. We have the reminder of the asterisk down below, like I said, and then we have the index for all the different rules. So again, if you want to read specifically what Artana Games has written about these different parts of the turn, whether it's in the base, expansion, or robot rulebook, I have put those pages in here. For some things like event reveal, which obviously doesn't apply to the base game, I have NA. And then for things like bookkeeping and scoring or game overview, I have the little caret icon there. It says this is a completely defunct rule once you have added the expansion. So it's still there. You can see what it was back before the expansion existed. But just a heads up that it is there only for edification purposes. Please don't go and read how bookkeeping or scoring works in the base game rulebook, assuming you are playing with the expansion, because it is not the same. All right, we're on to page 3, overview of the actions. I'm going to give you a couple of 10,000-foot pointers, and then we're going to go meatbag robot on down. So for the humans, I have a note in here of how many luminaries or luminary or more the action takes, and then whether or not they need specific ratings in the 4 different food groups that they have. And then on the robot side, I have what the first line tells you which line of the AI card this is, and I did make this not in the order that they appear in the rulebook, but the order that they appear on the robot card to lessen any frustration with that. And then just a heads up of what they could do with the action. So let's get into it. First up is propaganda. So for meatbags, it is going to be a single luminary who does not need any specific ratings for this. However, if they do have the megaphone rating, the first thing you get to do is you adjust either the fame track or either of the fame tracks, company or AC/DC, by the amount of their rating. And as humans, you can adjust any company up or down when you get there. And then obviously the marker up or down towards AC or DC. That's going to be important in a second. Then you're going to choose a propaganda card, taking the amount of money shown from the bank and adjusting either the company or AC/DC fame track as the card shows. So lastly, I know you said they didn't need any specific ratings. However, if they do have one or more money symbols, they will add that rating times the face number as bonus money earned, in addition to whatever the propaganda card told you. Over on the robot side of things, again, first line of card may adjust either or both of the fame tracks. If both fame types appear, take 2 actions, which would utilize 1 card each. So first of all, you're going to choose a propaganda card that adjusts the fame type shown the most. So if it says AC/DC, you're going to go for the one that's going to adjust that the most. In a tie, choose the card with the higher cash bonus. At that point, you're going to raise the marker of the chosen fame track by the amount the card says, plus the AI bonus that the card may have. And robots only raise their company's fame. They will not tank any other companies. They will only make theirs better. If no cards match the fame track on the card, flip the card with the highest cash bonus face down and still apply the AI card's fame bonus. So to whichever one that it wanted to do. So if it said AC/DC, but there weren't any cards like that, you'd flip the highest amount you can make money-wise, and then you'd still apply that bonus to the AC/DC. Now, one note that was up in the turns area, if a propaganda card would move a robot's marker that's already at the top, instead raise the robot's stock price by the phase number. So that is an important thing to remember, and it is up in the normal structure of the turn on page 2. The last part of propaganda for both humans and robots, after the action, flip the card used face down. If now all the cards are face down, flip them all face up again. Now this is a change from the base game. In the expansion, you will never run out of propaganda cards. In the base game, when you used one, it left the game. It was no longer an option. But with the addition of the players and just kind of rounding things out, they realized that kind of, stopped the fun of this phase, and you are able to always have a propaganda card, at least one. Might not be the one you want, and then once the last one turns face down, they all suddenly pop face up again. All right, next up, technology. So for Meatbags, this is going to use one or more luminaries, and they need specific ratings based on the combined numbers of those 2 ratings indicated by the 1 or more levels on the technology track you wish to advance on. So the gear and the lightning bolt, they're different depending on the different technologies and the different levels. If you're just going up 1 level, you only need to look at the ratings on that specific level. But if you want to leapfrog over that level and maybe snag a patent on the next level that no one else is at, you're going to need to combine the lightning bolt and the gear ratings, and your 1 or more luminary needs to meet or exceed both of those things. Now, if the patent is available on the level you advance to, so long as your luminaries have enough combined $ ratings to meet the total levels you advanced, you may place a cube on that level and claim it. Now, it doesn't actually need any money from your wallet. It's just your luminaries need to have that skill. And again, the really important thing is not just having the $. You need to have enough $ to meet or exceed the number of levels you went up. So if you went from level 2 to level 4, you would need to have $2 between however many luminaries you have. If you do this, increase your stock price by the tech level that you patented. Now, over on the robot side of the house, this is your second line of the AI card, and you may advance the robot in 1 or more technologies. For each technology, advance the robot's marker to the indicated level, right there on the card. Yes, this may happen multiple times. If a plus $sign is shown, claim the corresponding patent for that tech so long as it's not already claimed by another company. Now, as you can see, because it's across both ways, if anybody, human or robot, claims a patent, they will increase their stock price by the tech level that they patented. Remember, only one company can patent each level of the technology, just like in real life. Moving on to project. It uses one luminary for humans who does not need any specific ratings. You need to meet the technology requirement, so bulb and AC/DC power source. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to look on the board and it'll show you what power level you need for that city. And in order to supply that level bulb, you need to have that level of either of those energy sources, which you get to choose. AC or DC, which may make a difference based on which one is more in public favor. Now, you're going to pay the bank the project costs as per the city size, modified by two things. You're going to add $1,000 per phase number for each city in between this project and any of your others. So there is the regional cost to skipping over cities. It behooves you to kind of go city to city to city rather than kind of jumping around the map. You can do it, it's going to cost more money. You also get to deduct $1,000 times phase number per each $sign rating of the acting luminary. So if it's phase 3 and your luminary has $2 signs, you get to deduct $6,000 from the cost of whether that's the city size cost or the regional fees. It gets deducted. Now, over on the robot side of things, this is your third line of the AI card, and it may claim one or more specific sized projects. Now, for each Roman numeral shown on the card, the robot will place a cube as close to the geographic directions to the left of it as possible. This could be a specific direction, north, south, east, or west, or as close to a specific city shown. So Menlo Park or New York City. If there isn't a project of the specified level, take the next lowest. If there aren't any, claim the physically closest project the robot has the tech for. And if there are none, claim no projects, but raise the stock price by the phase number for each project that you can't claim. Next up, and this is for both Robot and Meatbag, pay opponents who hold used patents $1,000 times the technology level. Robots give money to other players from the bank, and Meatbags pay robots to the bank. Remember, the robots will never, ever take money, but that doesn't mean you don't need to pay them for patents, and it also doesn't mean they won't pay you for your patents that they're using. Lastly, whoever gets the project, place a cube on one of the spaces of the city to claim it, and increase your stock price based on the city size, plus or minus the value of the AC/DC fame track. So again, it could make a big difference if you have both AC and DC available to you. To use the one might not be your highest technology level, but if it's enough for the project and it's more in favor, you're going to earn more stock value because of it. The last of the 4 actions is going to be a headquarters action. So for Meatbags, this uses one luminary who needs one or more rating to match the desired headquarter card. So you have your 4 different headquarter cards, which I'll jump down to the bottom. Labs provide a bonus for actions. Works provide paths to bonus victory points. Offices give money or fame. And studios provide a powerful ability. So when you take this action, you flip over the desired headquarter card and apply any immediate effects, if any. Not all of them will have it, especially not the works cards, which will only ever have endgame victory points. On the robot side of things, this is the 4th line of the AI card, last stop before you move on to the next player, and they may develop parts of the robot HQ. When shown, flip over the HQ card specified. Ignore all gameplay effects of developed headquarter cards until scoring, at which point treat them the same you would treat them for Meatbags. So with regards to however many you have made, it'll get you 1, 3, 6, or 10 victory points. And the HQ works bonus only applies if they actually made the works. Now, the last thing on the actions here, it's not really an action, but it's a little bit more clarity for how the robots are going to operate in the bookkeeping phase. So this is how they acquire stock. The robots take stock that match a very particular criteria. They will never exchange money for it, because they never get money, nor will they ever trade away stock. It's just assumed that they have money squirreled away somewhere to buy stock every time their card says so. Typically, the stock the robot is interested in will either be one of their own, showing off the company logo, or one of two other criteria. One of them is the highest or lowest, indicated by an arrow, with regards to company fame, number of projects, value of stock, or patent level. The other is furthest claim projects in a particular direction, indicated by the directional letter and arrow. As always, or rather as I said before, if you do not have stock, the specific type that the robot would like, then you're going to choose the next best stock. So if it says the highest stock value, if that's not available, you'll go to the second highest stock value. And you'll just go on down until there is a company with available stock for the robot to acquire. And that's it. That's the end of the 3-page document, and I hope it's helpful. And there we have it. That is the whole kit and caboodle of this player aid that I've put together. Again, this is going to be helpful for you if you're playing with robots, with or without other players, human players that is, or as long as you take out that one little asterisk on those two little rules, it works just fine if you are not using the robots at all either. So be sure to take that into account. Keep it around for all your games. Hopefully it'll be helpful. Yeah, that's all I've got for you. So as always, it's been Kyle Frost with Give Paws Hobby, and for friends of the channel, I'd like to extend a +1 to stay frosty. I could definitely use a +1 to stay frosty here in the Game Garage. If you would like to receive an extra hello and a boon to stay in frosty, be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think about the game. I've already said how much I love this game, and I look forward to playing it even more. And if this video can help even 1 or 2 people get this to the table a little bit more often, my job here is done. So with that, hope you have some great games, a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye!